Bad news and good news. I was scheduled to be the last speaker of the morning. Unfortunately, that's no longer the case due to some unforeseen circumstances. I am now, good news, the last speaker of the afternoon. So we'll jump right into that. And the first question is a touchpad question. So we can pull that up. And we'll actually hold the music because I'm going to talk over the touchpad question. So I'm the 20-plus speaker of the morning. And after the 20 great presentations we've heard, what can possibly be said to add to that? And I think what I'm hoping to show you is that there's an unmet medical need in the Canadian healthcare system today that hasn't been touched on yet. It's probably the biggest unmet medical need. It is one that all of you that are in the industry have a product in your pipeline or in the market today that is addressing this unmet medical need, but you just don't know it. It's an unmet medical need, if addressed, achieves the holy trinity of profits for the pharmaceutical companies, decreased costs for the payer, and improved outcomes for the patients. Yet it hasn't been talked about yet, although it is being talked about at another conference this week, which would be nice to see if we can combine them. So let's start with this. Get the touchpads out, I should say, and Dr. Gulliver, you probably know this. It is World Psoriasis Day today, so maybe that will influence your answer to this. So get your touchpads out and let's see what the vote brings.
You don't have the right answer.
I don't have the right answer up there. I'd argue that I do. All right, that's interesting and at the same time not, because you're all right. It's a trick question, actually. All 5 of those have Canadian Healthcare Awareness Month in October, although the one I want to concentrate on is one that everybody's missing, although I guess there's my slide. It's also Canadian Patient Safety Week. Front page of the National Post on Monday had, unfortunately, a 22-day-old baby died from complications to a preventable adverse event. It is Patient Safety Week, and the Canadian Patient Safety Institute has their conference happening right now. And in fact, the speakers from this journal article are speaking at the exact same time as I am, although if they're on time, they might have been finished already. And I have a quote from their presentation. So in 2004, this was published in the Canadian Medical Association Journal, 185,000 adverse events in hospitals in Canada. 70,000 of those are preventable. Now that was 2004, so what do we know about that today? Well, unfortunately, we have to turn to US data to somehow inform our practice in Canada. And they took a look at their data, and there goes the Malincroft here, unfortunately, as well. We're all getting dragged down here. So, the To Err Is Human was a landmark study in the US in 1999, and the Patient Safety Journal about a year ago published an update, and now saying that preventable, the key word here is preventable. Preventable in-hospital medical errors is the 3rd largest cause of death in the United States. That's shocking. And if you take a look at the causes in Canada and we apply the 10-to-1 rule, then it would be the 3rd largest cause of death in Canada as well, coming in at somewhere between, depending on your estimates and methodology, 21,000 to 44,000 lives lost every year. If you take a look at the slide Brian just put up there and distribute cancer across its distinct diseases, this whole top 10 would probably be shuffled dramatically. Now, this isn't a competition, so let's just concentrate on what's important here. Progress. 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, the Canadian Adverse Event Study was published, but we've definitely made progress, right? Well, this was on the front page of the National Post, and the little call-out bubble in the middle of the screen is actually from the authors of that journal, and it's one of their slides in their presentation today. More than 10 years after the Canadian Adverse Event Study and the initiation of Safer Healthcare Now, there continues to be only limited overall improvements in patient safety. And those limits are due to surgical checklists and hand washing and hand hygiene, but they've shown to have limited impact on patient safety. So I'm going to change the conversation now to pediatrics. Since we've made no progress on the broader scheme, I think we'd all agree that children are very important. Let's see if we've made some progress there. So touchpads out again. Canada, ranking in newborn infant mortality, ranked among developed countries. Where do we sit? I will also tell you that coming up while you get your touchpads out, and we'll keep the music down, although Mitch's music selection is awesome. Touchpads out and we'll get the voting started. World Prematurity Day is coming up very soon. This year, premature birth is now the leading killer of children under 5 years old, and it's the leading killer of children, neonates in Canada as well. So I'm going to bring your attention to that in a second, but we'll start the voting on this. 13th, I just threw in the number 13. I thought that would draw people's attention, and I was right. It just seems like such a random number. It had to be right. The answer to this is number 2. We are second worst in the world for developed countries. We are slightly ahead of our friends to the south in the U.S., who are the worst. The worst in all countries in the world is Somalia, and I would hope that in every case we're not looking to compare our healthcare system to theirs. Not that they're not trying to make improvements as well. So why is this a problem? We are second worst. With any newspaper article and with any study, things have to be taken into context. So the incidence of premature birth in Canada, the number 1 driver of mortality in infants, is higher than it is in many other developed countries. We do strive harder to bring more babies into the world and to resuscitate more babies that are very severely premature than maybe other countries do, and we collect data differently. All that to be said, though, maybe we should be doing something about this, and there should be more attention. This little baby was born prematurely, I believe around 26, 27 weeks. I'd like to tell you that she is alive and well, healthy and beautiful little girl. You can see how small these babies are, the ones that I have seen, and many of the ones, so you're talking about 1 pound, 1.5 pound babies. They are tiny, they are vulnerable, and they do need more help. So why is this? Well, the Canadian Pediatric Society decided, with Health Canada's help, let's see if adverse events are worse in children or the same as the general population. Because we must be doing better in kids, right? Well, the alarming piece in here, and I would say to everybody, if your children are admitted to hospital, unfortunately you have a 1 in 25 chance of being admitted pediatrically in preventable serious harm. 9% of children that are admitted to hospitals experience an adverse event. If you're in acute or tertiary care hospital, that risk goes up. If the patient is surgical in nature, the risk is twice as high, and if the baby is a neonate, then that risk is 10 times higher to have a preventable adverse event that causes serious harm. That is Canadian data, folks, and it needs to be done better. So why is this? Obviously the answer, we all know this, the fault is definitely the drug companies. The Harper government has passed Vanessa's law, which is going to solve all of the problems because the drug companies need to do better. Unfortunately, once again, 1 year later after that's being passed, they're still not boosting drug safety. Well, why is this? Well, most of what Vanessa's law is doing is either allowing us, pharma executives, to be put in jail, but the best part about this law is it's actually finally asking our hospitals to be transparent with their adverse events and near misses. That data doesn't exist in Canada. It should. Some hospitals have taken leadership positions and present this on their website for you to see, but most do not. So now they have to do what pharma's been doing for several decades, which is reporting all of their adverse events and near misses to Health Canada and making this transparent to the public. So if it's not pharma's fault, then maybe it's the medicines. It's got to be the medicines. This is a list, and I don't know if you can see them all. That's sort of by design. Probably, if you exclude the pharmacy associations, the nursing associations, and the physicians associations, you've got about 2/3 of those are government-funded ministries and other associations. And they convened a summit on medication safety. And that makes so sense, because we know that most of the adverse events are caused by medicines, and they can be prevented. Yet you would think that the manufacturers of these medicines that were causing all this harm would be invited to the table, but we haven't been. Hopefully the next time this medication summit exists, we will be at the table. But the fact is that these adverse events, these preventable adverse events in hospitals aren't due directly to the medications. The number 1 driver is human error, and that's what needs to be fixed. So the answer here, at least in children, and I think we all agree with this, it comes back to innovation. Let's do more research. A study that was shown last year, so in 2014, called Improving Medicines for Children, where the title of this talk comes from, professors and pediatric physicians from across the country. We know that children respond differently to medicines than adults do. They're not just small adults, they are different. You can't just cut the weight in half, cut the dose in half, and therefore you have an answer. Half of all Canadian children take a prescription medication. If you're under 1 year of age, that's almost 80%. 60 to 70% of all these medicines that are used in our children are prescribed off-label. So if we did more research in children, we would know the exact doses, we would know the safe doses, and perhaps some of these adverse events would be reduced. So that makes sense in theory, except you have something That happens a year later, and once again, no progress is being made. And this is from a blog by the authors of that original report. So why isn't progress being made? We know the answers are innovation. We know the answers are human error. Maybe transparency will make a difference. But I'm going to give you a case study on one small reason why I think maybe progress isn't being made. Because sometimes we're putting our efforts and our dollars and our people resources in the wrong place. So CAFC is an organization that stands for Canadian Association of Pediatric Health Centers. They do excellent work on behalf of all the large children's hospitals in the country, have made significant gains in pain safety and transport medicine for children across the country and in many other areas. Now, there's a drug that's available for neonates born with primary pulmonary hypertension or respiratory distress. It's indicated for babies that are 34 weeks or older. More than 2 decades ago, before rare diseases and orphan drugs were on anybody's radar, it won the award from the National Organization of Rare Diseases for breakthrough innovation. The molecule itself has won the Nobel Prize. It's been approved by the FDA for 15 years and Health Canada for 10 years. The Canadian Pediatric Society and the American Association of Pediatrics have all defined very clearly what the correct, effective, and safe dosing is for this drug. Yet, a month ago, corresponding with 1 year after that Improving Medicines for Children was published, this organization decided to publish guidelines recommending a dosing regimen that is shorter than that which is approved by Health Canada, the FDA, the CPS, and the American Association of Pediatrics, in order to try to shorten the duration of therapy for these children and save costs. So my challenge to all of us in the healthcare system is out there is you can't make the call for improved and more research in children, and then once that's done, is then put your focus solely on trying to save costs and recommending dosing regimens that are off-label in manner that aren't well studied and that the literature doesn't support. So the challenge here for everybody, and this is my last slide, we know that medication are a leading cause of death. We should all be working to improve medicines in children, despite the fact that maybe some associations will try to control those costs. We should all be demanding safer health care now. That one little baby I showed was the very first baby that was enrolled in a pilot project at Mount Sinai Hospital. It's called Patient and Family Integrated Care. The key word in those four is not patient, it's not family, it's not care, it's integrated. It's different than centered care. The family is now part of the healthcare team. They make decisions, they touch the baby, they're involved in everything that happens with that baby, and that is very different than it used to be. And the publications and evidence shows that it improves outcomes for these babies. And I would say that that pilot study can be applied to everything that we do. Integrating the patient in care will not only improve patient care, it'll decrease adverse events, and hopefully that will make the payers and the patients and the drug companies, through increased collaboration, very, very happy. So for all of these companies that are here that are going through their patient centricity design and what that means to your companies, I know almost all of you have it in your missions or visions. Hopefully I've given you a very clear indication of what patient centricity does like. If we reduce these adverse events that are preventable, not only will we improve our own profits, we will increase patient safety and outcomes, and the payers will save billions and billions of dollars that can be invested somewhere else. So thanks very much. On November 17th, it is World Premature Baby Day. The CN Tower and Niagara Falls will be lit up purple, and if you've been wondering in the past why that is, this is the reason why. So I'd recommend everybody take a look at some of the research that's out there. Go on the March of Dimes or Canadian Premature Baby Foundation. 1 in 12 babies are born prematurely in this country, and it is the leading cause of infant mortality. Thank you.